Imagine this. It's 2 in the morning in Tokyo. The entire city is submerged in a deep blue silence. You're standing in an utterly ordinary apartment, and the air is thick with dust and the scent of an ending. Around you, several men in plain work clothes move with a practiced skill, almost without a single wasted sound. Only the short, sharp rip of packing tape occasionally tears through the quiet. They aren't moving someone in or out, at least, not in the normal sense. They are performing a surgical erasure. The books on the shelves, the clothes in the closet, the pots and pans in the kitchen, every trace of a person's life is being swiftly and calmly packed into unmarked cardboard boxes. After the packing is done, one of the men even takes out a cloth and carefully wipes away any footprints that might have been left on the floor. Their goal isn't just to empty this place. It's to restore it to a state of never been lived in. The owner of the apartment, a middle-aged man, stands by the window, silently watching it all. His gaze is unfocused. The movers pass by him, and no one says a word, as if he were already a ghost. As a worker prepares to move the last nightstand, the man suddenly walks over and picks up a family photo from its surface. In the picture, he's smiling happily with his wife and daughter. He stares at it for a few seconds, and then quietly places the frame back on the soon-to-be empty nightstand, turns, and walks out the door without a look back. This isn't a crime scene, nor is it an eviction for unpaid rent. What you just witnessed was a service. A professional service provided by a company known as a Yonige-ya, which translates to a night moving company, and their client, the man who left his family photo behind, from the moment he walked out that door, is about to become one of the Johatsu, the evaporated people. In Japan, nearly 100,000 people a year vanish from their old lives, just like this, without a sound. They aren't kidnapped, and they haven't met with misfortune. Their disappearance is voluntary, it's paid for, and it is meticulously planned. So what kind of despair could possibly lead a person to pay whatever it takes to willingly choose to be deleted from the world? Exploring stories like this, stories hidden deep within the fabric of a culture that strike at the very core of human nature, requires a massive amount of research and effort. So if you find this story as moving as I do, I hope you'll take a second to hit the like button and subscribe. Your support is the single greatest motivation that allows us to keep digging deep. Thank you so much for that. Alright, to truly understand this seemingly incomprehensible choice, we first have to step into an emotional world that might feel a bit unfamiliar to many Western viewers. At the heart of this world isn't a question of right versus wrong, but of whole versus broken, and that begins with an emotion that every single one of us has experienced, but one that can take on a vastly different form: the feeling of shame. In the cultural context of the West, when we do something wrong, say, you accidentally break your friend's favorite mug, the primary emotion you feel is guilt. The logic of guilt is, I did a bad thing. It's an emotion aimed at an action. It feels terrible. You feel remorseful. You apologize, and you buy a new mug to make up for it. You see, the problem can be fixed. It can be resolved. Guilt is like accidentally spilling coffee on your white shirt. It's embarrassing and a hassle, but you know it's just a stain. You can deal with it. That stain is outside of you. But shame is an entirely different species, especially in a collectivist culture like Japan's. The logic of shame is not, I did something wrong, but rather, I myself am wrong. It doesn't attack your actions. It attacks your very being. It's not the coffee stain on your white shirt. It's the very fiber of the shirt itself, dyed a permanent gray. You can't wash it out, because you are it. The feeling is internal, permanent, and utterly devastating. To make this more concrete, let's imagine a character. We'll call him Mr. Tanaka. A typical Japanese salaryman in his 40s. He's worked diligently for the same decent company for 20 years. His entire identity is inextricably linked to that company. When he introduces himself, he subconsciously says, "I'm Tanaka," from company name. It's not just a job, it is him. His life has been like a train running perfectly on schedule, moving smoothly along a predetermined track. He's the pillar of his family, a cog in the social machine, and he finds comfort in this stability. Then one day, without warning, the train derails. Due to a downturn, the company needs to restructure, and Mr. Tanaka's name is on the list of layoffs. In a guilt-based culture, this would still be a massive blow. He'd be anxious, hurt. He'd go out for drinks with friends to complain, then update his resume and prepare for the next interview. But under the immense pressure of a shame-based culture, Mr. Tanaka's inner world is being torn apart by a silent tsunami. For him, being laid off isn't just the loss of an income. It means that he has failed as a man, as a husband, as a father. He has failed to meet his family's expectations. He can no longer maintain the social image of the reliable Mr. Tanaka. What he feels is a profound and unspeakable disgrace. And so, something that seems utterly bizarre to an outsider begins to happen. The next morning, Mr. Tanaka wakes up at the same time, puts on his crisp suit, straightens his tie, picks up his briefcase, and says to his wife, "I'm off." Then, he walks out the door and goes nowhere. He might spend the entire day on a park bench, or aimlessly browse books in the city library, waiting until his normal commute time to return home, dragging his weary feet back to the house where he is desperately trying to maintain a facade of normalcy. Why does he do this? Because he can't bring himself to speak. He can't tell his wife and children that he has failed. He can't bear the mixed gazes of pity and judgment from his neighbors and relatives. In Japanese culture, there's a crucial concept called sekente. It refers to the dignity and reputation one maintains in public. For Mr. Tanaka, preserving this public face is even more important than solving the actual financial problem. As you can imagine, the pressure of this double life is immense. He's not only suffering from the pain of unemployment, but also from the immense mental exhaustion of performing as an employed person. Day after day, as his savings dwindle and the lie is about to be exposed, his inner shame has ballooned into a monster that consumes everything. He looks in the mirror and no longer sees a man facing a difficult time. He sees a useless person, a superfluous man. At this moment he has, in effect, already experienced a social death. His social identity has crumbled. In his own network of relationships, he has already sentenced himself to death. So, when a person's inner world has collapsed, when he has already held this silent social funeral for himself, how does that final step of putting it all into practice happen? For that, we need to understand the mysterious industry in Japan that has turned disappearing into a real business. This industry is known as Yonige-ya, which literally translates to a night running away shop. The name has the color of a B-movie, but their services are far more calm, meticulous, and even gentle than a movie. They aren't your ordinary moving company that just hauls boxes. You can think of them as a hybrid. They are part psychological counselor, part private investigator, part logistics planner, and even, in a way, undertakers for an identity. When you call their number, the voice on the other end is usually very steady. They won't ask you why. They will only ask you when and where to. Because every person who calls has a story heavy enough to crush a person, and to force them to repeat it is, in itself, a form of cruelty. Let's return to Mr. Tanaka's story. As he sat on that park bench, scrolling through his phone in the dim light, and found the website for a Yonige-ya, his life's trajectory shifted from a slow collapse to a precision demolition. After meeting with the head of the company, usually in the corner of a nondescript cafe, he was given a detailed action checklist. This list reads like the script for a spy film. It doesn't list what to take, but rather, what to leave behind. The director might tell him, Mr. Tanaka, your family photos, your university diploma, any trophies you've won, anything that proves how successful and happy the old you was, you can't take a single one. It sounds strange, right? Why leave your most precious things? It's actually a profound psychological maneuver. These items are anchors to your old identity. If you bring them with you, you can never sail into new waters. Every time you see them, it's a painful memory, a eulogy for your past self. To disappear completely, the first step is to personally sever these warmest and also heaviest spiritual umbilical cords. They also plan several fake escape routes. For example, the director might suggest that a few days before the move, Mr. Tanaka should buy a non-refundable train ticket to Hokkaido and casually mention to a colleague or acquaintance that he's thinking of heading north to clear his head. That way, when he disappears, the first instinct of his family and the police will be to search for him in the north. His actual destination, however, might be a forgotten little town in the south. All of this costs money. Yes, evaporating is an expensive business. Depending on the complexity of the service, the fee can range from a few thousand to tens of thousands of dollars. This itself is a sad paradox. Many people choose to flee precisely because of debt, yet they need to pay a large sum of money just for the privilege of disappearing. Finally, the night of the operation arrives. Just as we saw at the beginning of the video, an unmarked truck will park silently downstairs. The workers will pack the most essential items for a person's survival, a few changes of clothes, cash, minimal necessities, with maximum speed. The entire process usually takes less than an hour. Now, let's explore the core psychological price of this process. As Mr. Tanaka takes one last look at the home he lived in for 20 years, at the smiling faces of his wife and daughter in the photo frame he chose to leave behind, what kind of emotional tearing is happening inside him? On one hand, there is an immense sense of relief. Starting tomorrow, he is no longer the failed Mr. Tanaka. He no longer has to wear a suit to a park to pretend to be an office worker. He has been released from the prison called shame. But on the other hand, there is a deeper fear and an unspeakable sense of self-betrayal. He has escaped the identity of a failed father, but the price is becoming a man who abandoned his family. In order to kill one demon in his heart, he has had to feed another. There's a psychological phenomenon called post-decision dissonance. After you make a major, irreversible decision, your mind experiences immense conflict, and you constantly question whether you did the right thing. For an evaporated person, this dissonance will accompany them for the rest of their lives. They sever their connection to the past, but it's like severing your own shadow. No matter where you go, it's still there. Many Yonige-ya directors have mentioned that on the drive to the client's new destination, the vehicle is often filled with a dead silence. It's not the peace that comes after relief, but the silence of a plant just before it withers after being ripped from the soil. They thought they were buying a one-way ticket to a new life. But many only truly realize, when they're sitting in that departing truck, that the ticket's destination is actually called the void. From the moment they step into that truck, they must learn to think like a real spy. No credit cards, no loyalty cards, no traces left on social media, and you can't even get sick with something that requires you to register your identity. They use one giant lie to cover up a truth that shamed them. This choice, in itself, constitutes a new and even lonelier psychological prison. So, when they arrive at that unfamiliar destination on the map, when the Yonige-ya truck disappears down the road, what kind of new life awaits them? When the truck from the Yonige-ya disappears down the road, when Mr. Tanaka, or rather, the man who used to be Mr. Tanaka, arrives at an unfamiliar destination that seems blurry even on a map, what kind of new life is actually waiting for him? If the world he escaped was an orderly rainforest built of social gazes and family responsibilities, then the world he has entered is an concrete desert of absolute anonymity, with no rules to speak of. In Japan, there are areas whose names don't appear on any official administrative maps, but every evaporated person knows they exist. For example, the Sanya district in Tokyo. This place is a shadow left over from Japan's high-speed economic growth, a gray area made up of temporary workers, day laborers, and all sorts of people with a story. The hotels here aren't called hotels, but doya, which is the word yado, written backwards, implying that this is the reverse side of mainstream society. The price for a bed is extremely cheap, and usually no one asks for your ID. For an evaporated person, this is the perfect hiding place. Mr. Tanaka's new life might begin like this. Every morning at 5, before the sun is up, he has to gather on a street corner with 100 other silent men. Soon a van will pull up, the window will roll down, and a foreman will stick his head out and yell, "Need 10 guys for work today." The crowd will surge forward like a tide. No contract, no interview, no background check. You get picked, you get in the van, and you go to a construction site you've never been to before to do a full day of hard manual labor. In the evening, you get paid a stack of cash and return to your 3-square-meter doya room, day after day. He has fallen from a white-collar world where you survive with your mind and your network into a blue-collar world where you survive only with your physical strength and your silence. In this life, his past identity is both a curse and an irony. The business acumen, the management experience, even his taste in fine wine that he was once proud of, are all worthless here, even dangerously out of place. He must learn to forget who he was, to drink and speak crudely like the men around him, to face everything with an indifferent expression. He must kill Mr. Tanaka so that this anonymous laborer can live. And the most terrifying part of this life isn't the material poverty, but the fear that hovers over him at all times. It's a chronic paranoia that seeps into his bones. Every bathhouse owner, every construction foreman who hands him cash, even every police officer who walks past him on the street, could be a threat that unravels his past. He can't get sick because a hospital requires registration. He can't make friends because friends eventually get curious about your past. He can't even live in one place for too long because familiarity itself means risk. Freedom, the one thing he thought he would get, now seems like an extravagant illusion. He escaped the prison of family and society, only to walk into another, much larger and colder prison, one built from his own secrets and fear. And so, the most profound loneliness begins to slowly submerge him, like water. In the cheap bars of Sanya, he can drink with his fellow workers and complain about the weather, but there's an unspoken agreement between them: never talk about the past. Every person is an island, separated by an ocean called "What's past is past." He might be sitting alone in a park on his day off and see a young father awkwardly teaching his daughter how to ride a bike. The girl falls, and the father runs over laughing, helps her up, and dusts off her knees. In that single instant, a memory he has forcibly buried will pierce his heart like a knife. He'll remember what his own daughter looked like as a child. He'll remember that he promised to take her to Disneyland. And that promise, just like him, has also evaporated. He escaped the shame of being a failed father, but he can never escape the pain of no longer being a father at all. It's at this moment that he might truly understand the full weight of his choice. He didn't move from one life into another. He moved from a state of being into a state of non-being. He once felt suffocated in a world where everyone knew him and judged him. Now, in a world where no one knows him and no one cares, he feels another, more complete form of suffocation. This existence as a ghost sounds like a tragic story from a distant land. But if we peel back this fog of culture and geography, might we see a familiar shadow of ourselves in these evaporated people? This, perhaps, is the most unsettling part of the story. The world that Mr. Tanaka fled was an invisible social network, constructed from the gazes of his neighbors, the evaluations of his colleagues, and the expectations of his family. But aren't we, all of us living in the 21st century, living within an even larger, more sophisticated, and unforgiving network? Every like we give on social media, every time a friend tags us in a photo, every angry or foolish comment we've ever left online is permanently archived by a server. Our lives have been digitized into a digital footprint that can never be deleted or altered. In a way, every one of us now possesses a digital identity that can never truly evaporate. Mr. Tanaka chose to disappear because he couldn't maintain his respectable social image. But aren't we all living in a global digital respectability contest? On Instagram, we're foodies and world travelers who love life. On LinkedIn, we're ambitious professionals with sterling resumes. On Facebook, we're role models with perfect families. We are all carefully maintaining a meticulously crafted, sparkling persona. This pressure is, in fact, a globalized, digital version of a shame culture. When the tired, flawed person in our real life is in stark contrast with our shiny online persona, that inner shame of, I'm a fraud, or I'm living a fake life. How different is it, really, from the last straw that broke Mr. Tanaka? The act of evaporating sounds so extreme, it's as if it's from another planet. But the fantasy of rebooting your life is an incredibly common modern ailment. Who hasn't, late at night, had the fleeting thought of deleting all my social accounts, moving to a new city where no one knows me, and starting over? Who hasn't fantasized about having a format button for their life? Johatsu is simply the most extreme and most tragic execution of this brief fantasy that nearly all of us have had. They are not incomprehensible monsters. They are just people who, under the same pressures, took a step that was further and more resolute than our own. And so, this mysterious story from Japan ultimately becomes like a mirror in the mist. At first, we see a blurry, exotic silhouette. But when we gaze long enough, the mist clears, and what we see is actually ourselves. It reflects our fear of failure. It reflects our obsession with the opinions of others. And it reflects that most fragile, most hidden corner of our hearts that just wants to run away. Because in the end, everyone, at some point in their life, craves a second chance. And the mark of a healthy society, of a truly strong civilization, is perhaps this: it doesn't require people to evaporate in such a tragic way in order to get one. And so, our journey into the world of the Johatsu comes to a close. If you are still here with me, thank you. Truly. I know this was a heavy, somber topic, but I believe that looking into these shadows is how we learn what it means to be human, and how we can learn to be kinder to one another, and especially to ourselves. Creating these deep dives takes an immense amount of time and research, and your support is genuinely what makes it all possible. If you find value in these explorations and want to be a part of a community that isn't afraid to ask big questions, please consider subscribing to the channel. A simple like or a comment sharing your thoughts also goes a long way, and I do my best to read every single one. Here in Japan, the night has settled in, and the city is growing quiet. So wherever you are in the world, whether your day is just beginning or coming to an end, I want to wish you the very best. May you find peace and presence in your own story. Thank you again for sharing your time with me tonight. Sleep well, may your dreams be sweet, and good luck in all that you do. Good night.